TV, Tel TV Plus viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 1079 FM, and respective radio stations island-wide. I am Charity Dunker, and welcome to the Live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and invite the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and the Honorable Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, Egbert Durant, to address you. Good morning, Minister, and welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Good morning to my colleague ministers, members of the media, the DCOM team, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Today I have a few brief updates. I'd like to start with the roadworks. If you have been using the Union Road over the past couple of days, you would have noticed that the milling has begun on certain sections. This is part of the ongoing work to be carried out by the contractor as it pertains to our planned road resurfacing that takes place every year. As per the usual, the mill is being trucked to our storage yard where it will be kept and used for other temporary road maintenance. While the milling started, we did receive word from the contractor that there will be a slight delay in applying the new asphalt. We do expect within the coming 2 weeks that the resurfacing will have started. In the meantime, I would like to thank those persons who live in the area for their patience as we continue to execute our plans as it repair to maintain our road infrastructure. Sometimes it does not go as fast as we would like, but the important thing is that it's happening. As usual, while this work is ongoing, our teams from the Ministry of Vromy Yard are busy with the scheduled patchworks that are being carried out around the island as well. In regards to the demolition of the former government building, this week I met with the contractor who won the tender to demolish the former government building. The purpose of the meeting was to sign the contract and officially get this long-awaited project ongoing. We expect that the demolition work would start within the coming 2 to 3 weeks as we give the contractor time to mobilize and ensure that the plan of approach is in line with the desire of the ministry. It is not as simple as some might think in terms of knocking down a building. Materials must be stored and some of those that we want to reuse again from the building also. Please expect to see some changes in terms of the parking in that area for those that park there on a regular basis, because certain places will be cordoned off. And my next point, as it relates to our building code, as I've previously stated, there are some major updates coming to our building code. I'm proud of the work being carried out by the ministry, and I would like to say, I would like to start by giving this particular update and thanking them for the time and energy they have put into this. I cannot stress how important it is for our professionals in the industry to be aware of these changes to ensure that they are designing and constructing buildings that are safe, durable, and compliant with our local regulations. Over the next few days, there will be several information sessions, both internal and external. During these sessions, the ministry will provide an overview of the new building code, including the changes to the building material, construction methods, and also safety requirements. Topics to be discussed include practices for complying with the new regulations, as well as any potential challenges that one may face when implementing them. Participants will also have the opportunity to ask questions and engage in discussions with other professionals in the field. Yesterday, we began with the internal training for the staff of the ministry. I must say, from the feedback that I received thus far, everyone is engaged and excited to be part of this process. I invite the public to also pay attention and look out for the information as it is released. The new code, which goes into effect July 1st, 2023, not only covers the integrity of physical structures, but also the safety and accessibility requirements as well. For instance, how does someone who is differently able enter a building? Is there a wheelchair ramp? Is the doorway wide enough for a wheelchair? What about the day when, God forbid, a fire breaks out? How do we ensure that in a building the proper materials or response mechanisms were put in place? How does the emergency worker get in a patient from the 4th floor to the ambulance on the ground floor so that they can get the life-saving care that they might need? On Thursday, May 11th and Tuesday, May 16th, we will have external training for the public. Persons that are interested in attending can send an email to minvromy@stmartingov.org. So again, I will repeat, minvromy@stmartingov.org. You will be sent an email where you can register for the training. I look forward to seeing all the professionals in the field attending these sessions. Again, as I mentioned over the last couple of years in terms of our challenges when it comes to building permits, is that a lot of times our evaluators at the permit department have to do a lot of correction work for architects that submit work. The purpose of this training is to not only educate the general public and also professionals in the field on our building standards, but also enhance the quality of work that is being submitted, because this too proves to be efficient in terms of the evaluating process. Ultimately, the goal is to have a registry where persons can do a training and be certified in there, and then we would have those architects registered as well. That would be all for now for my updates, and I look forward to any questions the members of the media might have. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're most welcome, Minister. Also, the Minister would like to make mention to the members of the media that he'll be leaving our meeting at 10:30 this morning. So if we to reach that time for the question and answer session, and you see he's not present, be sure to forward any questions to his cabinet. I'd like to welcome as well at this time the Honorable Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Omar Otley, to address you. Good morning, Minister.
Thank you, Ms. Dancha. Good day to the members of the media, my esteemed colleagues, the viewing and listening public. I'll be very short. I just wanted to extend greetings to everyone. Truly an honor to be here today. Every day you wake up is a blessing. I would like to, on behalf of CPS, state that any vaccinations that is required will now be done via appointment. I would like to proudly state that we are on the final stages of the AOV legislation. We received it back. The next step is to go to the Council of Ministers and send it to His Excellency, and then hopefully Parliament for debate, in which we can make this a reality. I have a meeting scheduled, a walkthrough scheduled with the St. Martin Medical Center to get full updates on the General Hospital. What is the latest steps? What is the plans? So that I can relay to the people of St. Martin accordingly. So that meeting is set up for next week. Also, I'll be in Parliament today at 2 p.m. to discuss many items such as GHI, General Health Insurance. This has been a matter that has been on the back burner for many years. So I would like everyone to tune in to be well informed. Like as promised, I kept it short. I look forward to any questions from the members of the media.
Thank you as well, Minister Otley. The Minister of Justice, Anna Richardson, is present, as well as the Honorable Minister of TIAT, Mr. Arthur Lombriques, also present, however, will not be making any opening remarks, but are available for any questions members of the media may have. If you have just joined us, you're watching the live Council Ministers Press Briefing for today, May 10th, 2023. Thank you very much for joining us. We now move on to the question and answer session, whereby I'd like to invite member of the media, Mr. Andrew Dick of TV 15 News. You have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan, and good morning to the ministers and, of course, the public. Minister Lombriques, the Carnival season just concluded. I noticed that nobody addressed how Carnival went. So if you could give me a statement as to how you thought the Carnival season went.
Good morning, members of the media. Good morning to those listening in the public via the radio, social media. Good morning, colleague ministers. Good morning, Ms. Dunker, support staff. Thank you for your question, Mr. Dick. According to me, the Carnival festivities season went relatively well. We didn't have any, much hiccups other than, small little things that happened here and there, but I believe it went reasonably well. I didn't have any other reports stating otherwise. And from what I've seen and what I enjoyed also, it was, to me, a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Andrew. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Very good morning to all the ministers present and my colleagues. Minister Lombriques, the low season is upon us. It's coming up. Are there any extra efforts that will be taken to attract more visitors and stayover visitors in the summer? And I will ask this question to Minister Durant since he's not staying for the full session. Minister, we've taken note of the many potholes that have been fixed as part of the Union Road being resurfaced, etc. Can you give us an indication as to, any word on the damaged guardrails and street signage and so forth? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Indeed, low season is already upon us. We can see a lot of days already a little quiet, no ships in port, a lot less movement also. However, the airlift and the airlines are quite full. All the seats are booked. The issue that we face and many countries face is to have the actual extra flights coming in. We are planning as the ministry and myself to travel in the upcoming month to visit some of the airlines, including Spirit and different airlines, JetBlue, also new airlines such as Southwest, to see if we can get some new relationships going. Unfortunately, there was a big conference that comes up every year that was held during the budget debate, and I could not attend, so I missed that, so I'll have to follow that up and make those personal visits, which are, again, like I said, planned, but I need to balance off a little bit also because we have a lot of groundwork here to do, so by next month I will be traveling to visit them and see how we can increase those airlifts and get extra people in. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick, for the question. In regards to the guardrails, coincidentally, yesterday I received the final advice for the repairs of the different guardrails. One of the holdbacks, I must say, was the price, the amount of money and the funds and the budgeting and the prioritizing as per usual. But this time, I mean, when I say this time, moving forward, we see instances where a lot of car accidents take place and we do not get the proper reports in order to bill the insurance company based on that. So if one car damages another car and hits in the guardrail, they only deal with the damage that's on the car, and then government is stuck with the bill for the infrastructure that belongs to government. We have reached out to CAP-ASM and also the cars company that deals with accidents to make sure that we get those reports in an efficient and a timely manner in order to follow up there and make those that are responsible, which is ultimately the road users / insurance company, to cover those costs as well. So that is going to be a strict measure moving forward, and I hope that that can mitigate and also cut the costs. I know that that will mitigate and cut the costs on government's end in terms of repairing. So that is well on its way as well.
Okay, thank you.
Street signage, sorry.
Yes, that we are also busy installing different street signs in and around the island. That's being done internally by the VROMI staff at this moment.
Thank you, both ministers, and also thank you, Judy. Moving on to Mr. Steven Cirillo of PJD2, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Good morning to you, ministers, Deputy Prime Minister. My question is for you, Deputy Prime Minister. What we've noticed is the quick fading of the road markings. What kind of paint was used in executing the painting? And can you help us to understand as to who received the contract for the demolition of the government building?
Sure. Indeed, we have been facing some challenges with the road paint. It is road paint that's being used. However, I was in discussion with the Department Head of Infrastructure Management as to the method in which it was applied and so forth. So that is an ongoing discussion. And we have noticed in one of two areas where it's sort of faded, so that has our attention. We're busy with that as well. And the company that won the bid for the demolition of the government building is Limitless Construction.
Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Stephen. Andrew Dick of TV15 News, you have the floor.
Thank you. Minister Otley, as far as clarification on the statement of you doing a walkthrough of the hospital, are you satisfied with the pace that the hospital is going? I know that's a lingering issue since you became Minister of BSR, so if you could give me your feeling concerning the trajectory of the hospital. And my question also for the Minister Lambrix is the airport. If we can get an update on the construction, how far is it going? Is it on schedule? I know that certain measures were put in place for the construction to be completed as soon as possible.
I'll take it first. Mr. Dick, no, I am not satisfied. I have stated it over and under numerous times. I'm not satisfied. But however, I'm working with the hands I was dealt. There was a lot of contractual agreements and a lot of different intricacies that it took place before my time, but I'm here now. So what I did is basically do the best with what I received. The amendment to the contract has been signed. Now there are some technical, I won't say issues, but technical aspects that are being handled as far as designs and who will take care of what. I gave a strict deadline of a month. The month is over, hence the reason my meeting. It will not just be a walkthrough, but it'll be a follow-up on the progress. But I am not satisfied. I will never be satisfied until I see 100 workmen on that site going full force. We have created ways within the ministry, rapid permit procedures, that we would help, expedite permits and expedite projects of national interest. I must say the airport has taken full advantage of this, but the airport received this full cooperation from the ministry because they have done what they needed to do by exhausting all means to hire locally. Until Finzo does this, we will be a bit reluctant to grant these permits because I need to know that you are exhausting your means to hire locally. So it's a lot that we have to take into consideration. And like I state, this meeting is one of our general meetings, our quarterly meetings, where I will set deadlines, and after this meeting, I'll be able to give you set deadlines on the next pour and et cetera, and how we expect to see an increase. I must state, though, just for the record, since the signing of the Fourth Amendment, I received the list of workers. At one point, we had 15 workers. Yeah, 15. Now we're at 43. Still not happy, like I stated, until I get 100, but I received a full detailed list of 43. So we have seen an increase since then, but I look forward to seeing more progress.
Next minister.
In regard to the airport and the reconstruction and where they stand, I think it was 2 weeks ago we had a walkthrough with the Council of Ministers. We had a nice presentation from them. Myself, I was a little bit impressed, but still also not happy, as Minister Otley said, with his project. I'm also not 100% happy with the airport, but I am receiving now good feedback from them when asked. I'm also receiving good cooperation. So I've seen some good progress also. Like I said, the departure hall is on track of being completed on time, hopefully even a little bit early. We're working hard on doing that. The actual airport itself, there is still some inconveniences, with the hammering and the drilling and the noise, because it is an ongoing airport and construction and operating airport. There are some plans in place in the upcoming months to move the arrival area out of the building, so the full force can be put on the bottom half of the building to have that also finished by the second quarter of next year, and the airport finally finalized and ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, both ministers, and also thank you, Andrew. Moving on to Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald. You have the floor.
Thank you. Minister of VSR, can you give us an indication as to what effects the increasing of the wage threshold has had on SZV thus far? I know it was going through some financial issues and this was necessary and so forth. So is there any changes do you guys see any changes thus far? And also the Swaliga Employers Association, they've expressed concern about the direction that SZV is going, given the increase of the threshold and number of persons that have to come on board. They have concerns about whether SZV has the capacity to handle this. Can you give us your reaction to this? And thank you so much.
Of course, with anything, there's always pros and cons, and there's always persons that will have concerns. SZV can handle the capacity. This is part of the reason too. SZV is focusing on automation. But with automation, again, there's pros and there's cons. Automation allows more of a volume and allows us to work in a better, in a wider range. But of course, we have to take into considerations our seniors who are not tech savvy and those things. That's why we have involved programs and also using the community help desk to help our seniors and those who are not, that tech savvy. As far as the wage increase, there was an increase that has been noticed. I stated it in the budget debate. I can't quote the exact amount right now. I can send it to you in writing because I don't want to misquote being that we're live. but it was an increase that we saw. What we were looking at, and we're still waiting on, although we see an increase in revenue, we want to know now, is there an increase in expenditure with more persons being in the pool? And that is what you want to compare, because you can receive more money, but if it's more persons now that are in the pool that are not well, that are ill, then it's more expense that are going out. So that is the latest that we are trying to figure out, that I have not figured out as yet. SZV is working on that specific calculation to see the exact amount of, let's say, profit, for lack of a better words, because you can receive money, but it is what is left over, I guess, is what we are trying to see if it make sense.
May I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Minister, I don't remember the figure, but you did mention a figure as to the number of persons, given the increase of the threshold, who would be eligible to now fall under SZV. How is that process going? Are people signing up? Is everyone now under SZV, or do we have some who...
We still have some that are reluctant and some that are trying to beat the system. But, you know, at the end of the day, and like I stated, we are now moving towards, well, I can't speak for Parliament. Parliament would have to, at the end of the day, decide and vote on it, but we're moving towards the National Health Insurance for All, where everyone will then have to be insured at some point. So eventually, that is the direction that we are heading. Well, as far as the government, and at the end of the day, it'll be up to the Parliament to decide if they would head in this direction.
All right. Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Judy. Mr. Stephen Cyril of PJD2, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. I know that the Deputy Prime Minister has to leave. Before you do so, can you tell us as to what figure is associated with the demolition of the government building? And my question is for the Minister of Justice. Minister, we know that the Minister of Defense recently, in fact, was here on a weekend visit for the first time. You have had discussions with her. Can you give us an idea as to what was discussed?
Stephen, I would need a few to get that answer to that question.
Pleasant good morning to my honorable colleagues, everyone tuned in, the media. Yes, Mr. Cyrillian, we did have an opportunity to meet with the Minister of Defense. This was her first visit to St. Martin. It was myself and the Prime Minister, along with our teams, that had the opportunity to meet with her. She was also here with a delegation that included the head of our Coast Guard, Dutch Coast Guard, Mr. Boats. And our discussions were very fruitful. We discussed things like hot pursuit, which is directly related to the Coast Guard. We discussed matters of our interest to have a military academy established here on St. Martin. We have a military base that is in process, but it is a great aspiration of mine to have a military academy established here. There's similar in Aruba and Curacao, and you know, I see no reason why St. Martin can't have its own as well. She was very enthusiastic about that. We discussed specifics regarding the Dutch Coast Guard here in St. Martin and a few other areas, but pretty soon we'll be putting out a press release about it, so more details are forthcoming. Thank you.
Minister Duran? No? Okay. I'm sure the minister will be able to follow up on your question, Stephen, for your cabinet, yes? Moving on to our third and I believe final round. Mr. Andrew Dick of TV15 News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. As far as the immigration project, the pilot project between VSA, TIAT, and also Justice, how is that going? I know that a deadline was set, and you were encouraging employees to send letters. How's that process going, and are you getting the cooperation from the businesses as far as the process is concerned?
Sure. Morning, Mr. Dick. So I think we would have wanted to have a little bit more traction from the businesses, but I'll allow my colleague to chime in here if he has any details from that aspect. What I do know, though, is that there are a lot of persons within the community who are requesting to have the exemption opportunity so that they can have the few weeks for their employers to submit. Are the employers submitting? I haven't gotten an update from the team recently, and as I said, I don't know if Minister Vyasa has any information on that. But I know the deadline is also coming up, I believe, in June. The end of June, I believe, is the cutoff point, and I'm hoping that a lot of businesses did support their staff who have contributed for many years to their businesses, that they would assist them in having their status regulated. Minister, have anything to add?
No, just with the reality of the project was to grant this opportunity. Before we saw that when there were controls being done, many people were upset in the manner in which the controls took place. So this was an opportunity to, allow businesses to do the right thing or, create that exemption. So if you have not taken advantage of this opportunity, then we cannot expect, any negative reactions when what needs to be done is done. That's the only thing I can say. This was an opportunity to make it right.
Charity, as a follow-up to the Minister's Justice, but Minister, as far as a guarantee for employers, employees who are maybe afraid that if they send in the request and they are not given permission to stay, the information would then, of course, then be already by immigration, and then they would fear of being deported because of that. I'm sure that you've gotten those type of questions.
Well, just to give you some context, Mr. Dick, and to the public, see the thought process, as Minister just stated, there was the controls that were happening and persons were not happy about that. But it also stemmed from the fact that many persons were coming to the immigration department with job letters. And when explained that legally their employer should be applying for their work permit, many of them disclosed that the employers refused to. As Minister Utley just indicated, once this period is over, even the businesses have to understand that the Minister of Vyasa has the authority to take action against the business, because what you're doing is breaking labor laws. Minister of Tayat also has the ability to act on that. At the end of the day, our objective is to ensure that our compliance rates goes up, but we also don't want to facilitate abuse towards persons within our community as well. Oftentimes when these actions are taken, it is seen from a negative perspective. Why don't you leave people alone? But there's also another aspect of it that is not being looked into, where persons themselves feel abused by employers not doing right by them. What about that aspect? What about the fact that the government has a responsibility to ensure that there is fair treatment to everyone across the board and in every aspect? So we need to be able to broaden the way that we analyze the actions and authority that are enforced. And we believe that in this pilot project, we have definitely given an opportunity for all persons to do the right thing. And so when the enforcement is again applied, we do not expect that our public would feel as though we are going against anyone negatively. I think it's unfortunate, to answer your question, that individuals who would have sought to do this the right way are unfortunately connected with employers who do not support them. It says a lot. But it's time that we do things the right way. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you, both ministers, and also thank you, Andrew. I'll award the floor right now to Minister Vromia, as he would like to answer the question from Stephen, which was posed to him previously.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Vromia?
Charity, for the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Cerulean, for the question. I just got an overview from all the different, the 3 buildings that we demolished. The post office was approximately 570 guilders. The former justice building was 390,000 guilders, and the former government building is 660 guilders. And based on the the bill of quantities, there's a whole breakdown as to what takes place in the post office and in the government building in particular. There are certain elements that we have to safeguard, so that is more tedious than just totally destroying. So there's a lot of separation that is taking place as well for some things that are salvageable, so to speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister Vromi, and also Stephen for the previous question. Before moving on to the next member of media, I'd like to acknowledge and welcome the presence of Minister of Finance, Artwell Irian. He's also present and is available for any questions. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm, this is the last round?
Yes, it is.
So I therefore have 3 questions.
No, that won't be possible. Very sorry, Judy.
Okay. Finance Minister, you indicated in a notice recently that the tax return submission, the deadline has moved to July 31st, and you mentioned specifically in relation to persons to declare their short and long-term rental income. My question is, will government be able to enforce compliance control? And what about the many persons, the many non-residents who have no local tax numbers, have properties, and are also renting that? What about their fiscal obligation? And Minister of Justice, it's a follow-up because I had asked you this question at a previous press conference, but you were busy with the police and so forth. I had asked about the whole issue of falsified insurance documents and how widespread that is and what efforts are being made to address that, because the number of accidents is seriously increasing. And I do have another, just a follow-up for Minister Otley based on the question I asked earlier about SZV. Can you indicate how big is the pool of persons who are reluctant to join SZV? It's just a follow-up. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I'll give you a percentage-wise, Ms. Fitzpatrick. Percentage-wise, it's not much. It's about, say, 10%. We have received a lot of compliance. But of course, there's always that handful. So it's about 10%. Could be even less, but I'll just give you that round. It's a small figure, yeah.
I guess we're doing this in reverse. Okay. Ms. Fitzpatrick, thank you for the follow-up question, and I did look into it. I can tell you that there is an investigation underway. By saying an investigation, we know we have to await that discovery to take its course, and then we will be able to share more information within the near future. But I would say that the insurance companies are working with the authorities to be able to get to the bottom of this matter. Yeah, but I would encourage the public to refrain from engaging in these types of practices. See to it that you go to companies you know are licensed to issue insurance and maintain that trajectory.
I just wanted to ask, what is the context of the investigation? Thank you.
Those information I don't have for you at this time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Minister of Finance?
Thank you for your question. Thank you for your question, Judy. In regards to the income tax, everyone making income on the island must abide by the...
Proceed.
Proceed?
Yes.
By the laws of the land. So this isn't anything new. Income tax must be filed. In regarding to, I think your next question was persons overseas.
Yes, the non-residents who don't have a tax number, who have properties and are renting it. Yeah.
So as I mentioned before, we have started that process. So we are targeting Airbnb, vacation rentals, VRBO, Booking.com, all different aspects. Vacation rentals, short-term vacation rentals are something we are heavily looking into this year. We actually have an upcoming meeting in the next couple of weeks, the second week of June, actually, with Airbnb themselves. On a specific topic regarding tax collection. So this will be something we're heavily targeting, including those non-residents. We're not targeting residents, we're targeting the vacation rentals themselves. We also have, for example, entities on the front side that have properties over here that also have to pay their fair share. So we're not targeting individuals, we're saying, no, you have to pay your fair share. And so we're also going to be dealing directly with the entities, the VRBO, Expedia, because they're the ones that own VRBO, Airbnb, to be able to find solutions to be able to get the funds that are owed to government.
Yeah, so my question was how are you able to enforce that compliance? Yes, we're targeting them, but how are we able to enforce that compliance?
Like we are now. So one, you have to file income tax, and we have we're forming a sort of a task force now also to identify, to go a deeper dive into the pool, and the task force the same task, a similar task force we did with, for example, air park and casinos. We're now on that trajectory now also. You're welcome.
All right, thank you all three ministers, and also thank you, Judy. Moving on to Stephen Cerulean of PJD2, you have the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. My question is for the Minister of TIAT. Minister, a while back, there were discussions relating to the establishing of a St. Martin Tourism Authority. Are you still exploring the possibility of having such an entity in place? And if I may, Minister of Justice, we know of the two bodies formed at Guana Bay recently. What information do you have as it pertains to that?
I go first? There's no information at this time. That is still an investigation on the way. Of course, it is a case that on a daily basis we know we have an issue with human trafficking, human smuggling. This is something that we're trying to really hone in on and control as much as possible. But we don't know if this particular situation has anything to do with that. And I would prefer to receive a proper report before I engage any further into that particular subject matter. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Cerulean. Definitely, I am exploring that option of that of the Aruba Tourism Board that they have. It is something that has been working well for them. I'm a firm believer of not, reinventing the wheel, but using the wheel that exists, and if it works, that it can work here. We also try to adapt it. It would certainly bring some continuation for government when it comes to projects and initiatives when it comes to the tourism product and the tourism industry. Because the board, and that entity will be functioning no matter what, government changing, not changing, it will still stay there, so projects continue through that pipeline, and it's easier, and it's been beneficial for Aruba. So definitely, I am having a trip coming up to Aruba, I think end of this month. I will be visiting them also, and seeing how that works, how they set it up, and to get some more insight on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and also thank you, Stephen, for the last question. Honorable Ministers of the Council, also members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. For rebroadcast, be sure to tune into St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Tel TV Plus, the official Facebook page, Government of St. Martin, YouTube channel, Government of St. Martin, and TV 15 News. For video on demand as well, log on to the Government of St. Martin's YouTube channel. On behalf of the Department of Communication and Government of St. Martin, I am Charity Dunker, bidding everyone a pleasant day further.